Yes, I'm teacher. Okay, let's start the attendance. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Right? Abdul Muiz.
Present, sir.
Thank you. Abdul Muiz Ansari.
Present, sir.
Okay, thank you, Muiz. Arsalan Javed.
Present, sir.
Asadullah. Do we have Asadullah?
Yes, sir. Present, sir.
Thank you. Azizur Rahman. Do we have Azizur Rahman? No. Deepshika.
Present, sir.
Thank you, Deepshika. Faiza.
Present, sir.
Thank you, Faiza. Faryal. Do we have Faryal? No. Hamid Ali.
Present, sir.
Thank you, Hamid. Hezbollah.
Present, sir.
Thank you, Hezbollah. Maria Bhutto. Mariam Shahid.
Present, sir.
Thank you, Mariam. Mohammed Hassan. Mohammed Hassan. Mohammed Imran.
Present, sir. Mohammed Hassan, present, sir.
Okay, Mohammed Imran. Nimarta.
Present, sir.
Thank you, Nimarta. Prakash.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Prakash. Priti.
Present, sir.
Thank you, Priti. Rahul Kumar.
Present, sir.
Thank you, Rahul. Rizwana.
Present, sir.
Thank you, Rizwana. Saddam Hussain. Saifullah. Surinder. Suraksha.
Present, sir.
Vanisha.
Present, sir.
Vikas Ahmed. Zahid Bashir.
Present, sir.
Zahir Hussain. Zahir Hussain. No. Okay. So from Media and Communication Studies, we have Noor Fatma and we have Mariam Naveed and we have Hira Aman. And what about other students? Yeah, Gulrukh is here. I can see. And where is,
Aisha is.
Zainul Abidin and Aisha? They're not here?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Okay, Aisha is here. Okay, Aisha. Thank you, Aisha. Zain, is Zain here?
Yes, sir. He's here.
I can't hear him. I can't see. I can't see him. Where is he? Zainul Abidin.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Present.
Zainul Abidin is here. Okay, thank you so much, Zainul Abidin. Okay, thank you so much, everyone. Section D and BS1 Media Studies students, Assalamu alaikum and very good morning to everyone. So we're going to talk about one of the very important topic in the recent context with the European continent that we see. Europe is changing its political environment. There's a lot of change going on in Europe. That's what we are going to study about related to this, one of the very developed continent. The issue that we have under discussion today is European Union and the future of Brexit, right? So before I start to talk about Brexit, I would like to give you a background to why do we, witness a change in the recent context. So I just would like to give you a history about what is this European Union is all about, EU, European Union. So let's start with the first slide. European Union is basically the idea of this organization was experienced or witnessed in 1951 when there was the establishment of European coal and steel community by 6 countries of the Europe. There were 6 countries who were actually joining their hands to cooperate on a trade related to coal and steel. These are the 2 entities on which they actually wanted to have trade between each other. Those countries which were having coal energy resources, they were utilizing and they were trading with those countries who were having steel for the construction purposes. Now, whenever I talk about this first point about this committee or a community between the 6 countries on cooperation with related to the trade of coal and steel between these countries, I tend to talk about why these 2 entities are important for the human beings. So previously, what we have seen in Europe is basically the utilization of these 2 entities, coal and steel, for the destructive purposes. Coal and steel is basically coal is used for energy resources, and they were used in industries, factories and mills who were actually constructing for use for constructing power. But before that, before this the Second World War, or even before that, before the First World War, we see use of coal in those industries which were making ammunition, weapons, and arsenals related to the fighting. So war fighting. This entity, coal and steel, basically these are the 2 things they were used for manufacturing of weapons in the world. But afterwards, in 1951, just hold on just for a second. Hello. Walaikum salam. Gigi, my class vatham pyo, and during I am just recording my lecture, and I'm with the class. Okay, so these 2 things were actually used for industries, factories, and mills, which were used for weapon making industries. So, but this realization, European people, especially 2 intellectuals in the Europe, realized the importance of these 2 entities for the constructive purposes. One was known as Jean Monnet, the other was known as Helmut Kohl. These 2 intellectuals realized the importance of these entities not to use for the destructive power, not to use it for the war-making industry. So for the first time throughout Europe, there was a feeling of these that we should not use any entity for the manufacturing of weapons. In 1957, we see another development in the Europe was the European Economic Community was signed, and that treaty was known as Treaty of Rome. And that was signed in the capital city of Italy. And then afterwards, what is the most important point here is to raise when United Kingdom joined European Economic Community. Now, as we know from the historical background, the United Kingdom or England was not part of the European Coal and Steel Community at the time of establishment in 1951. But we see United Kingdom joining European Union afterwards in 1973. So 1973 is the year when United Kingdom became part of the European Union formally. Moving further, in 1993, this union, which was known as European Economic Community, came to be known as European Union. So the name that we ascribe to this organization and this regional economic organization is basically tracing its origin in the year 1993. So यूरोपियन यूनियन का जो नाम यूरोपियन यूनियन पड़ा, ये पड़ा था 1993 में. इससे पहले इसके जो नाम चेंज होते रहे, जैसे कि 1951 में this organization was known as European Coal and Steel Community. So we used to call this organization as ECSC, European Coal and Steel Community. Then afterwards changed its name again, came to be known as European Economic Community. Okay, so again in the 1993, there was this signing of this treaty known as Maastricht Treaty. Maastricht Treaty was about free trade between these member states, which were part of the European Union. And that was signed in the city of Maastricht. Now, Maastricht is a city of Netherlands, which is also known as Holland. There comes a time when European Union states realized that there should be establishment of a single currency in European Union. So a lot of countries lobbied for the making of a common currency in the year 1999. So this is the year 1999. Basically, we see for the formulation of euro as a single currency of European Union states. What is most important here is in 2012, again, is the year when there was this organization received the Nobel Prize for Peace. So this is the only organization in the world which has ever received a Nobel Prize for its work, for whatever it does in the Europe. The purpose of European Union, the purpose of this European Union organization is to promote greater social, political, and economic harmony among 28 member states, with the population of approximately 507.4 million people, which are part of the European Union. So GDP of about 14.3 trillion pounds. But if we convert into the dollars, that will be $18.5 trillion in 2014. So you can update this figure. This relates to the year 2014. So these are the member states of the European Union, and these are the flag representation of various countries. So that's what the background of this European Union he was the power. Now let's talk about the issue that the Europe is facing right now inside its continent, known as Brexit. Brexit is an abbreviation of British exit that refers to possibility of Britain's withdrawal from the European Union. So it is basically the combination of two words, Brexit. So BRE means British, EXIT is known as the leaving of Britain from the ambit of the European Union. This actually was the consequences of a referendum which was held in जून 2016 2016 में जो रेफरेंडम हुआ था बरतानिया के अंदर उसी वजह से ये ब्रिटिश ने डिसाइड किया उस रेफरेंडम की वजह से और उस रेफरेंडम के हम रिजल्ट आगे we'll see in the next slides what was the result of that referendum which was held in June 2016. Reasons for leaving the ambit of European Union. There could be many reasons. There could not be a single reason of the British exit from the European Union, as there is a list of reasons. So number one is the interference of the European Union. The European Union was interfering in the domestic policies of various countries. For example, if there is an organization, as we have discussed in the state system, the sovereignty concept. So one of the sovereignty which is known as pooled sovereignty. So European Union is the best example of pooled sovereignty when there are many states which are borrowing, which are actually lending their sovereignty in the favor of greater cause of cooperation and development of the Europe as a single continent. So the British actually saw the European Union policies, economic policies, political policies as its interference into the domestic policy. This is where the first you see the difference of opinion rises between the British government and the European Union as an organization. The second reason could be the United Kingdom taxpayers' money goes directly into the European Union, 14.5 billion pounds a year. So UK is considered as the third largest contributor into the budget of the European Union. So first one is Germany, the second one is France, third one is British. So British United Kingdom is the third largest contributor into the budget of development of European Union. So they had so much to pay, and UK people were actually paying their tax money to run the European Union as a regional organization. The European Union regulations cost UK businesses over 600 million pounds every week. Now that's a huge cost that the United Kingdom has to pay every week in the form of 600 million pounds to run the affairs of the European Union. So in 2016, as I referred to my previous slide, is basically the referendum which took place in United Kingdom. June 23rd was a date where this referendum was held. UK voted in a referendum to leave the European Union. The votes were counted in 8 locations in Northern Ireland, but collected and declared as one result. Prime Minister David Cameron resigned the morning after the vote on 24th June. Why he resigned? There is a reason to it. Because David Cameron was the Prime Minister who was not in favor of Brexit, who was in favor of Bremen. Bremen means not letting UK to leave European Union. So that's why the next morning, when he saw the result of the referendum of Brexit, then he came to know that the people in Europe Union or the British actually they were in favor of Brexit. So thereby he resigned from the post of Prime Minister. A few weeks later, Theresa May was elected as a leader of Conservative Party and the new Prime Minister. So Theresa May was the Prime Minister, became the next Prime Minister, and was elected as a leader of Conservative Party and the new Prime Minister of the UK. Origin of the crisis. सबसे बड़ा जो रीजन है हम जो ब्रेग्जिट देख रहे हैं यूरोपियन यूनियन में बरतानिया का यूरोपियन यूनियन को खैराबाद कहना is basically the reason of policies, the difference of policy between these two blocks. So one block we have divided, we have kept England and US. Other block was Germany and France. So there was a difference of opinion between these two blocks. So while this block, Block A, we may call it the UK and the US, was not conceding to the migration policy which was adopted by the European Union. France and Germany were in favor of migration. Remember, in 2016, there were people who were leaving from Asia and African states in order to settle in Europe from the scourge of war, from the, there was a civil war in many countries, Syria, Lebanon, Libya, and many other, Yemen, Myanmar, Afghanistan. There were many countries who were experiencing a civil war inside their country. The people of those civil war countries, they were highly affected, and that this war led these people to migrate to some other places where they could find a job and a reason to live. So these civil war affectees, they were leaving to European continent in order to get settled. But Americans and the UK, the Britishers, they were not in favor of these migrants to come to their land. So here is actually we see the difference of policies, difference of stance, difference of this position. The position that was undertaken by UK and US was different than the policy and the stance taken by these France and Germany, who were the largest contributor to the budget of European Union. So this is where the problem started. This is where you see the issue of, difference of policy started. That led to the Brexit. In Brexit, there were a lot of prominent leaders who were actually exploiting the people's opinion and feelings and the sentiments of local UK citizens. One of the prominent scholars that we saw during this Brexit time was Michael Gove. Michael Gove was the one of the very prominent leader of the Conservative Party. Remember, there are two parties in United Kingdom. One is the Labour Party, the other is the Conservative Party. So Michael Gove was the person who belonged to the party of Theresa May, who was the Prime Minister after the resignation of David Cameron from the aftermath of the Brexit. So he saw European Union as a job-destroying machine. This is what he has reported to say and comment about European Union. He said European Union as an organization is a failed organization, and it is basically destroys the jobs of the local people of the Britishers. That's why he does not want to see non-British people to live inside United Kingdom. That's what his position was about. New opening for China and India. At that time, you saw a lot of people from India, United States of America, and Chinese people, they were traveling to United Kingdom. he was not in favor of those people to come inside European Union. That's why he's tagged European Union as a job-destroying machine. There comes a second leader known as Boris Johnson. Now, remember, Boris Johnson belongs to Conservative Party, who's right now the Prime Minister of United Kingdom. And before becoming the Prime Minister, he was a Foreign Minister as well of the United Kingdom. The only way to take back control of the immigration is to leave on 23rd June. That's what he is reported to say about this referendum. So he was actually talking about leaving the British from the ambit of European Union on June 23rd, 2016. The third leader, who we saw during this Brexit politics, was Nigel Farage. Nigel Farage has come up with his own party, different from the Conservative Party and the Labour Party, known as United Kingdom Independence Party. Now, United Kingdom Independence Party is the third party we see in the British politics, which has recently established. And he's the leader of this party. Now, what does he say? He says, let June 23rd go down as our Independence Day. Eurosceptic Jenny is out of the bottle. Now, what the statement tells you about his perspective of looking at the aspects of the Brexit. So he said we should we are not just only witnessing the Brexit politics, but we are witnessing that people should vote in favor of this Brexit in order to get UK independent from the European Union. So no more we will be joining the European Union. And there are two kinds of, people living inside Europe. Europe में दो तरह के लोग रहते हैं. एक ब्रेक्जिट के तनाजुर में यूरोपियन यूनियन पर्सपेक्टिव में. तो एक को हमने डिवाइड किया हुआ है यूरोस्केप्टिक के नाम से, जैसे कि यहाँ पे स्टेटमेंट दी है नाइजल फराज. यूरोस्केप्टिक मीन्स दोज पीपल हु आर नॉट इन फेवर ऑफ the integration of Europe as a single continent. Skeptic का मतलब for those who are reluctant, those who do not favor the integration of European Union. The other group is we'll be talking about in the later next slides is the Europhile. So Eurosceptic or Europhile, दो opposite camps हैं. यूरोस्केप्टिक वो लोग हैं जो यूरोप कॉन्टिनेंट को इंटीग्रेटेड नहीं देखना चाहते, और यूरोफाइल वो लोग हैं जो कि यूरोप को एज इंटीग्रेटेड कॉन्टिनेंट देखना. So these are kind of two basically ideas or two perspectives or two opinions people living inside European continent. If we look at the geography of the United Kingdom, it's an island state, and it has, a little distant from the main continent of Europe. So geographically we divide Europe into two parts again, as we had divided Europe on the basis of opinion of the people. Eurosceptic and Europhile. But we're looking at the geography of the European continent. Basically, we divide into two parts. One is known as the continental Europe, other is the Atlantic Europe. Now, continental Europe basically belongs to those countries who are actually part of the mainland European continent. To give you the example, Germany is part of the continental Europe. Austria is part of the continental Europe. Poland is part of the continental Europe. Croatia is part of the continental Europe. Albania is again part of this. There are so many countries. France is also part of it. So there are countries who are known as, which are known as the Atlantic Europe. Why are they known as Atlantic Europe? Because their shores, their coastal areas, their coastal lines are touching the shores of the Atlantic Ocean. So historically, Europe has been different. The policy of Atlantic European countries have been different from the countries which are lying in the mainland continent of Europe, which are known as Atlantic Europe. So we see a kind of rift, dissidence, or difference of opinion of these two various regions of the European continent on various issues. Same is the case with the issue of Brexit. What is the heart of the matter? What are different perspectives prevalent in this regard? One perspective is the politics shapes the economic policy. And it's not about money, it's not about trade, not about war or immigration, but it's about democracy. एक ओपिनियन तो ये कि पॉलिटिक्स जो शेप करता है इकोनॉमिक पॉलिसीज को, जैसे कि हमने तीन पर्सपेक्टिव्स को स्टडी किया है in the international political economy. One was mercantilism. So mercantilism talks about the dominance, the ascendance of political apparatus over the manufacturing or formulation of the economic policy when it comes to the state governance. So politics takes the front seat, while economics sits at the back. That was the perspective of mercantilism. So this again, in the Brexit times, we saw that the politics is basically shaping the economic policies of various countries, as in case of British political policy, translating into the division of policies over the European Union case. Second perspective, so people say it's not about money, trade, war, immigration, it's about democracy. People want to have their rights. And whenever they think it is not in favor of, European Union is not in favor of UK, or UK is not actually getting so much from the European Union, then these are the people, same people who actually voted to favor to become part of the European Union. Now they think that they have changed their mind. They've shifted their policy. So it's all about democratic value. It's about democracy. People of Europe actually have a different history. The way democracy have been cherished, got rooted in the European continent is different from the other continents that we see in the world. So Europe is basically the product of the democratic values that are given importance, as in case of European Union as a single regional organization. Third point I already talked about. There are two kinds of people in Europe. One is Europhiles, the other is Eurosceptics. So Europhiles, they are in favor of integration of European Union. Eurosceptics, they are not in favor of the integration of Europe as a single regional organization. Other point is the United Kingdom leaving European Union is like UK leaving Europe. This is one of the sentiments shown by the people who are not in favor of Brexit, who are in favor of remain. They say if UK leaves the European Union, it will be like UK will be leaving European continent. The fatal diplomatic blow to the concept of pan-Europeanism. The last point of this heart of the matter perspective is that this Brexit issue has come up vis-a-vis as opposite to the concept of pan-Europeanism. Now, remember, pan-Europeanism is a concept that we've talked about when we studied nationalism. That pan-Europeanism is a concept where we saw people of Europe, they wanted to join hands together and form similar policies, economic, political policy, cultural policies, in order to meet the 21st century challenges to the European continent. So this pan-Europeanism is the integration, is the amalgamation, it's a mixture of all the European people, regardless of their geographic location, regardless of their culture, but geography remains the factor which unites the European continent. So Europe as a continent should get united on the concept of pan-Europeanism. So this Brexit issue is a fatal blow, diplomatic blow to the formation of pan-Europeanism concept. So let's see the result of this referendum, which was held in 23rd June 2016, Brexit versus Remain. So looking at the overall picture of this referendum is that this blue part tells you about 48.1% who were in favor of Remain, who were saying that British should remain as part of the European Union. While this red part shown in this graph tells you that 51.9% are the people who are not in favor of Britain to remain inside the European Union, and they wanted Brexit. So there is a thin margin of just 1%. There we see a difference. So Remain is 48.1%, and Brexit is 51.9%. So just a fraction, 1.9% or 1.8% is the difference between Remain and Brexit. There's a very thin margin. And overall turnout ratio of the vote was 72.2%. England was actually the area of one of the region of UK where we saw 53.4% that they wanted to part its ways from the European Union. So looking at the population demographic perspective of the Brexit is 17.4 million people actually voted in favor of Brexit, while 16.1 million people they voted in favor of Remain. Looking at these four regions of England, England is divided into four parts. UK is divided into four parts. England is a main, center of development. We see a lot of political and economic dominance over the other regions of the UK is located in England. So England voted in favor of Brexit. Wales also favored Brexit with a percentage of 51.7%. While looking at two parts of the British Union, because UK is basically a union of four regions, Scotland and Northern Ireland, these are two areas which did not favor of Brexit, they were favoring Remain. So looking at the Scotland's result was 62% of the people living inside, those who voted in favor of Remain. So they do not want Brexit. Northern Ireland, which is again part of the UK. Remember, there are two Irelands. One is the Republic of Ireland, the other is Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland is part of the United Kingdom. So we're talking about this part. We're not talking about that country. So Northern Ireland result was 55.7%, those who favored Remain. Now, looking at the impacts, this is very important. Looking at the implications, consequences, repercussions over the European politics of this Brexit issue is the highly economically driven. First point is that there could be economic implications for this Brexit issue. The United Kingdom jobs are linked to the trade with European Union, therefore Brexit might affect these jobs directly or indirectly. So people who are actually who are known as non-British citizens of the UK, they now have to resign. They now have to leave their jobs from the United Kingdom. So this is number one issue, and vice versa. Those Britishers who were actually doing their jobs in parts of the Europe, other countries like Germany, France, Poland, Latvia, Lithuania, right? Portugal, Spain, these countries, now British people have to leave their jobs in order to get settled inside UK. This rehabilitation is a main issue that people have to gone through. So this is again a drastic impact over the politics of how this Brexit is basically putting its effects. 61% of the UK are known small businesses. Exports go to the European Union. Being able to trade freely with the Europe, coupled with no barriers, helps small businesses in the UK grow and create jobs. This might be adversely affected. Leaving the European Union could also affect foreign direct investment, immigration, and economic regulations. So UK was actually getting so much from the foreign direct investment of various other non-British countries who were investing inside UK. They now have to leave their investment. Possible impact on currency, as we know that the British did not choose their currency as euro. They still were following their own pound as the currency of trade. So that will not be impact more on the currency thing, but again, they have to go through the after effects of the euro as a currency. Possible impact on society and a possible impact on the trade as well. Moving further, looking at the British case for the Brexit. Now, as I told you in the very first slide, that United Kingdom was the country which was not the founding member of the European Union. The European Union saw its establishment in 1953 in the form of European Coal and Steel Community. British actually joined European Union in 1973. That's a far later on, when the almost of the gap of 22 years. So after 22 years, the United Kingdom joined this alliance in Europe. So it is not the founding member of the European Union. And it is the first country to leave this European Union organization. At that time, 1973, there was the rule of the Conservative Party, and the Prime Minister was Edward Heath. Edward Heath initiated as a free trade area transformed into political process. So he was actually, the Conservative Party is the same party now wants to part its ways from the European Union. This was the same party which joined, which made UK join to part of the European Union. वही पार्टी है जिसने इसको ज्वाइन करवाया था यूरोपियन यूनियन को, ब्रिटिश को, और यही पार्टी है जिसने डिसाइड किया है इसको लीव करने का. So this is kind of a very interesting thing. What changed their mind? So many things changed their mind. Transformation of Europe from the conflict-ridden war down Europe into a peaceful Europe. So at that time, British leadership, led by the Prime Minister Edward Heath, they actually thought that by by joining, um, by making UK as part of the European Union, will transform this conflict-ridden area into a peaceful Europe. Remember the devastation and the destruction posed by the Nazi Germany over UK. There were severe after effects, repercussions of the economic repercussions of the World War II. That the even the London city was completely destroyed by the Nazi Germany. They had to now rebuild their cities and other parts of the UK. So they had to pick up pieces again in rising. So that's where Edward Heath said, okay, of Europe will not see a conflict, will not be a result of war. Europe will be always vying for, struggling for, striving for peace in the world. So the thrust of the matter of the British case as far the Brexit is concerned is the economic issue. Primarily, it is the economic issue. That's why we see Brexit. Other reason is migration. And migration, I told you, there was a change of policies. There was difference of opinion between two blocks. Block A, which was comprised of UK and US, which were not in favor of migration, not letting people to migrate to European continent from the civil war country. And there was another block, Block B, which was led by France and Germany, which were in favor of migration from the civil war country. That's where the problem started. So primarily it is an economic issue. Other is the issue of migration. Let's move on further. Now, what is the procedure that has been followed by any country who wanted to leave European Union? According to one of the articles of the European Union, or Lisbon Treaty, which was signed in Portugal, it is the only guideline that ensures the exit of any country from the ambit of European Union. Tells you the procedure, tells you, explains to you any country would like to be not to part of the European Union, have to follow two steps. Number one, they have to formally intimate, they have to formally write a letter to the European Union headquarters of giving them a message that they would like to go for departure from the European Union. Second step would be that UK and European Union have to negotiate within the time period of 2 years. Now here's where we see a problem, because June 2016 was the time period where we saw this referendum happening. But according to this article of the European Union Charter of the Lisbon Treaty, that there is a time frame that a country which would like to leave European Union have to leave within 2 years. 2 साल के अंदर उस प्रोसेस को पूरा मुकम्मल करना। लेकिन इस केस के अंदर ब्रिटिश केस के अंदर तकरीबन इसको 4 साल हो गए, 4 years हो गए, ऑलमोस्ट डबल, बल्कि 2.5 साल होने को है, जब ब्रिटिश ने अभी वो डिसाइड नहीं कर पा रहे वो यूरोपियन यूनियन को कब खैराबाद करेंगे। तो again, the issue that lies with the primarily this issue, why this extension of 2.5 years, 2.5 साल इनको further इतना time period क्यों दिया गया, is basically the UK, United Kingdom government had requested for extensions of the deadlines to the European Union headquarters, which is located in Brussels, Belgium. ब्रसल्स में जो हेडक्वार्टर है, जो ऑफिस है उनका यूरोपियन यूनियन का, ब्रिटिश गवर्नमेंट ने उनको बहुत ज़्यादा खतूत लिखे हैं, करस्पॉन्डेंस की है, रिक्वेस्ट किया है कि उनको फर्दर टाइम पीरियड दिया जाए ताकि वो अपना ये जो प्रोसेस है ब्रेग्जिट का वो रैप अप। तो ओरिजिनली 2 साल होते हैं किसी भी कंट्री को लीव करने के लिए यूरोपियन यूनियन को, लेकिन इस केस के अंदर इनको तकरीबन 4.5 साल लग गए। So this issue remains the heart of the matter when it comes to procedure of the that actually enshrined in one of the Article 50 of the Lisbon Treaty. European Union Council negotiates and mandates the European Commission, which is a bureaucratic arm of the European Union. European Union Council is the basically organ of the European Union where the negotiations, the mediation takes place, the talks take place. जहाँ पे बातें यूरोपियन काउंसिल एक इदारा है यूरोपियन यूनियन का, जहाँ पे ये सारे टॉक्स होते हैं किसी भी कंट्री के एग्जिट के हवाले से। और यूरोपियन काउंसिल फिर मैंडेट देती है, लिखती है तो यूरोपियन कमीशन को। यूरोपियन कमीशन बेसिकली is the one of the very important part of the European Union, known considered as a bureaucratic arm, जो चलाती है यूरोपियन। The European Commission have to actually do the paperwork, and European Union Council is the deciding organ of the European, where all the decisions takes place. So that's we're done with the procedure of the leaving of any country from the ambit of the European Union. Let's look at some of the technical issues that European Union is passing through as far as the Brexit is concerned. When we talk about migration, we talk about strict restrictions of immigrants, unlawful and illegal. So we talk about all those illegal migration taking place from one country to another country. The migration, as far as the legal is concerned, that is not, prohibited. That is legal. That is allowed, permitted, if looking at the laws of the European Union. Mostly, there is illegal migration taking place from these countries which are undergoing a civil war inside their territory. People do not have documents, proper documents, do not have legal passports and visas to get settled in the European countries, as we saw in case of UK and France and Germany. So UK did not allow migrants, all those who would not have legal documents, to get settled in the United Kingdom. Future UK EU relations will be again a cause of concern, is the apple of discord between the British government and the European Union, which is headquartered in Brussels. So this still remains the major issue, that how UK government will be dealing European Union as an organization as far as their trade is concerned. You can certainly have to rely on states which are part of the European Union, but Europe Union will not actually favor, it is seemingly not favoring the UK case, let alone giving them the extension in the deadlines. United Kingdom access to European Union economic areas is 44% of the British export and 53% of the imports. So Britain actually exports 44% of its products to the parts of the European Union, those who are part of the European Union member states, while it imports 53%. So there is a kind of a trade imbalance that we see in case as far as the British is concerned. UK to negotiate new agreements with European Union. Again, so they have to redraw their terms of engagement You can call them TORs, terms of references. They have to redefine the rules. They have to come up with again another agreement that they have to make with the countries of the European Union. So British had a lot more homework to do as far as the new agreements are concerned with the European Union. The European Union has to amend its laws for UK again. So it is not just homework for the UK. It is also a big problem for the European Union, and to precisely say that the bureaucratic arm of the European Union, which is known as the European Commission, have to do a lot more paperwork in order to amend laws for the United Kingdom as to how European Union countries will be dealing United Kingdom after the Brexit is happening. According to some people, scholars in this regard is concerned, that they say the UK will not get special treatment as per the European Union new laws are concerned. So special access is wishful thinking. So you have to be very strong. You have to be very stringent in your policy, that you do not want to break or violate some of the terms that are written in the articles of the European Union. So no special treatment would be given to the UK people and the UK government as far as the amendment of new laws are concerned when it comes to European Union. Without agreement, United Kingdom have to pay taxes and tariffs. So if there is a no deal in case of the British and the European Union, UK have to pay all the taxes and tariffs that are imposed upon UK trade. The UK will not actually, UK government will never actually rely on, a policy which will not give them the aid. So UK government will always talk to the European Union representatives, the European Union Commission and European Union Council, not to impose more taxes on the UK goods. Moving further to the how the British society was divided. Brexit is basically one of the very bad thing about Brexit is that it actually divided the social fabric of the British society. Looking at the Leave campaigners, British or the Brexit will relieve United Kingdom from its contribution to the European Union. So Brexit जो होगा वो UK को रिलीव करेगा. सबसे बड़ा जो advantage होगा, the biggest advantage the UK government will take out of this thing, that they will heave a sigh of relief from the contribution that British were making given to the European Union budget. तो जितने पैसे वो दे रहे थे यूरोपियन यूनियन के बजट में इंक्लूड कर रहे थे, अब वो पैसे उनकी सेविंग होगी और वो बरतानिया ब्रिटिश के लोगों के ऊपर वो इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं. पहले वो इस्तेमाल कर रहे थे यूरोपियन यूनियन के लोगों के ऊपर. अब वो जो कंट्रीब्यूशन जब वो नहीं जाएगी यूरोपियन यूनियन को, तो वो पैसे आप कह सकते हैं वो उसमें चले जाएंगे, सेविंग में चले जाएंगे. सेकेंड benefit that these Leave campaigners they were eyeing on, the migration to the United Kingdom is unacceptably high. UK people thought that there is a high level of migration taking place from the civil war, war-torn countries, conflict-ridden areas, conflict zones to the UK that was unacceptably high. That was beyond the acceptance of the UK people and can only be down if Britain takes control of the border. Now, here comes a time when the British government have to decide the control of the border. British government should now be very strict dealing with this unacceptable high level of migration taking place in the country. Third point of this Leave campaign is the European Union undermines national sovereignty. As we have discussed this concept while we were looking at the evolution of modern nation state system, the sovereignty issue remains remains still the unresolved issue between the British government and the European Union as a regional organization. From the perspective of British government and its representative, as in case of Boris Johnson or Nigel Farage or any other nationalist leader of the British government, they think that European Union as an organization undermines their sovereignty. It actually intervenes, it actually interferes in the domestic policies of the British government, British society, British country. तो ये भी बड़ा मसला है कि यूरोपियन यूनियन जो बरतानी जो लोग हैं वो समझते हैं कि उनकी सॉवरेनिटी के ऊपर एक अटैक है और वो सॉवरेन स्टेट नहीं है. सॉवरेन स्टेट तब होंगे जब जो बरतानिया लीव करेगा यूरोपियन यूनियन. So it will again take its control back from the European Union, and they will exercise this national sovereignty inside their country. Most of these campaigners, this segment of society, was 60 plus of age, and mostly they were male gender. As far as their gender is concerned, social class was C2 class. C2 class was skilled manual workers, those who were working in the factories, mills, and industry. And there comes people who were, this idea was supported by the United Kingdom Independence Party supporter. The people who were supportive of the Nigel Farage politics. The leader we have talked about, who actually established this party, UKIP party. Looking at from the other perspective is the Remain campaigners. Mostly these campaigners, they were like females from the age of 18 to 29 years. This social class was known as AB class, which was highly known as managerial class. They were like managers of various organizations, farms, factories. Mostly people were also from the university graduate students, Scotland factor. A lot of people were from the Scotland. They are not in favor of Brexit. Green parties is not in favor of Brexit. Benefits, what are the benefits of this Remain? Abolish roaming charges of the mobiles used that you see in the British society. A lot of people are using the non-British mobile services inside UK. Living cost is down as far as the people of UK are concerned, living inside other parts of the European continent. Free and cheap healthcare is possible if there is Remain, and right to live, work, and stay across European Union becomes possible. And the last point is university admission fees is 0. So anyone who is a French citizen can apply to a university in UK, and there he or she gets the admission, and you don't have to pay fees if there is Remain concept. If British remains the part of the European Union. They don't have, students do not have to pay full fees as in case of Brexit. What are the lessons from the Scottish referendum? Number one, remember there was this referendum in Scotland which taking place in 18 September 2014. So Brexit referendums, we saw another litmus test of the British society as far as Scotland is concerned. We saw another referendum taking place in one part of the United Kingdom, which was Scotland. So 2014 September was the time where we saw this referendum taking place 6 years back down the line. A turnout ratio was 84.5% and 44.7% of the people who were actually favoring this referendum. And those who are against this referendum was 55.3%. It could trigger a breakaway of the United Kingdom. There was a kind of feeling that this referendum might be a triggering point to divide the British society as a state. If UK leaves European Union, it might strengthen Scottish hands for negotiating a merger with European Union in its own right, just in case of Sturgeon. Nicola Sturgeon, remember, is a politician of Scotland. And Nicola Sturgeon is not in favor of Brexit. She is in favor of Remain. Looking at the root cause of this issue is the presence of a false sense of hubris linked to United Kingdom colonial past. British look at itself as a colonial power, colonizing many countries in Asia and as well as in African continent. They have a sense of superiority, as we have seen in the theory of white men's burden theory. Only the whites are the most civilized people, while the other races, they are of inferior nature. So it is a false sense of hubris, dominance in the minds of the British people that they once been very powerful. They were once been a very strong colonial power who colonized almost every country of Asia as well as African countries. We saw another trend in this regard. It was the rise in the nationalism across the world that we call rise of the populism, the nationalist feeling, ultra-nationalism is in case of Donald Trump, Modi, some other politicians of the UK. Boris Johnson's point of view gives you a sense of the British superiority over other countries of the European continent. Anti-globalization sentiment is again, it's rising. Those who are not in favor of this globalization movement taking place, those who want to protect their economy, we call it economic nationalism, or we call it protectionism. Protectionism is basically a policy adopted by a number of countries where you see this nationalist government inside the government. They actually favor this anti-globalization sentiment inside their states. Opponents of European Union argue that it is a dysfunctional economic entity. They call it the European Union is nothing but just a futile organization. political leadership of Britain faced a profound, unpredictable setback recently, where you saw the result of this referendum not completely in favor of the Brexit. UK societies is the most divisive society in the world in the recent times. And the issue that makes divided is Brexit. European Union membership is costing them billions of dollars. It had to pay a heavy fees and a budget in which contributes the development of the European Union as a regional organization. The last factor is the factor of xenophobia. Now, xenophobia is basically a social issue, a social problem that we see in the British society, that they look at every person who is not a citizen of UK, who's not a white in race, they feel fear. They are afraid of that person. So they are afraid of the Chinese, they are afraid of the Japanese, they are afraid of the Indians, they are afraid of other non-British people or races to live inside their country. So that is why we saw phobia in the form of xenophobia, where they do not want to see people from other nationalities. Relevant triggering cause is a major political miscalculation by David Cameron that majority would vote stay. So David Cameron actually had this gamble in his hand that he actually invited the British people to go for this referendum, and in which he thought that initially at the initial stages he thought that there were people not in favor of Brexit, there would be people who were favoring Remain, but he was proved wrong. That's why David Cameron resigned from the prime ministership the day after this referendum was held in UK. Excessive, uninformed emotions caused to highly charged atmosphere. People were more sentimental about this issue of Brexit. Voters confused by lack of sufficient information about pros and cons were highlighted. Propaganda, especially through social media, further clouded the sentiment of the British public. The propaganda war was also used, as in case of media, and especially the social media, was the most highly dividing factor of the British society. So we see actors, those who are in favor of, those who come to play about the Brexit issue, the British government, on the one hand, is a basic stakeholder of this Brexit issue, led by Theresa May and Boris Johnson as Prime Minister. And Jeremy Corbyn is again a leader of the Labour Party, the party which is opposite to the Conservative Party politics, Jeremy Corbyn. So this could be one actor. Other actor is the European Union. European Union gets up in Northern Ireland, the perspectives different, Scotland, Wales, and US is an indirect actor in this regard. So what are the interests of, when we talk about interest of the various stakeholders, various actors of the European Union case and the British case? It's a favorable trade agreement. The UK will always look for a favorable trade agreement even after the Brexit issue. Continued investment, fortified sovereignty. Sovereignty will be remaining intact. Prospects of reduced issues of immigration, reduced unemployment, and lower financial burden. So these are different interests of the various groups or stakeholders. What are the goals of this British not to actually remain inside the European Union? To provide certainty and clarity to strongly opposing views, improve perceived balance between the UK and the EU laws, no reduction in solidarity within the British Union, preserving mutually beneficial ties with the Ireland and maintaining a common travel area, controlling undesirable immigration, ensuring balanced reciprocal rights for the British and the European nationals, protecting work rights and preserving free trade agreements, trade with the European market as far as possible. So these are the goals of the British government in order to fulfill their objectives. How did they position their stance? Is they look as if they are confused and lack of clarity in UK about objective interest. And that there's the issue of uncertainty among European people living, working in the United Kingdom. And they feel this reduced unemployment, economic uncertainty, and political crisis. This is the main, what you can say. The objective of this, this issue is, what is the cost of this Brexit? Now, this is very important slide. Looking at the cost that the British has to pay for is too heavy. Brexit bill from 39 billion pounds to 60 billion pounds that includes outstanding European Union budget commitments. So they have to pay these $39 billion to 60 billion, pounds that the British have to pay to the European Union. And there is an increase in the inflation up to 0.25%. Inflation is rising. GDP lost from 4% to 10% annually. So British have to see and suffer this GDP loss, gross domestic product, from 4 to 10% annually. Every year they have to suffer this 10% loss in the GDP. Loss of access to single EU market, free movement of people, capital and goods. So they will lose the access to the market, the European Union market, if they are following this Brexit. Economic downturn will be seen, will be happening. They have to abruptly they have to lose 120 billion pounds. In the recent time, they have to go through this loss. They have to lose guaranteed access to European Union market. Companies will pack up. Nissan, for example, have to pack up from the British. They will lose, immediately they will lose 1 million jobs. 3 million European Union Britain versus 1.2 million Brits in the European Union. So Europe, basically the 3 million European Union citizens, they are living inside, they're working inside Britain, as opposed to the meager 1.2 million Britishers who are living and working in the European Union market. Britain have to renegotiate deals with the European Union. That is again a big issue. Britain will lose its say 65 million people versus 435 million European Union. So they will lose their stakes in the British. They will lose its stake. They will lose their stakes in the European Union politics, the bigger politics of the country. They'll be isolated from the European debates and discussions. New taxes on export and import, expensive trade, costing 3% of the UK budget, paying the way for Swexit and others. So this issue is actually causing a trouble for other countries as far as their people are concerned. There are again populist leaders in every country, like France in the form of Marine Le Pen. In case of Sweden, there are leaders who are not in favor of the British. They are not in favor of the European Union organization. And there are people in Italy. In Italy, there is a five-star movement. We'll be talking about maybe in the next slide. And winners of this issue is none. So it is basically a lose-lose situation for the British as well as for the European Union as an organization. What are the benefits? We saw the economic implications of this Brexit. Now we see the benefits. It is the tightening of immigration laws, payment to the budget of European Union will be the more saving issue for the British. 5 billion US dollars UK annually contribution to the EU. If it decides to leave, then Germany will take the burden. So UK actually contributes into the budget of European Union $5 billion annually. So this burden will be transferred again to two other countries which are contributing largest in the budget of European Union. First country which contributes is Germany, other is France. So Germany and France have to foot the bill in this case if the British leaves European Union. Strong regulations, speedy decision making will be taking place because there will be less bickering, less politics in the absence of the British representative. The decisions will be more speedy. Savings on European Union membership fees and other contributions, skill-based migration policy, and there will be ability to strike new trade deals with the other countries. So UK will now look to other countries beyond the continent of Europe after this Brexit. British may open up its business with countries in Asia, case of Japan, case of India, case of Middle Eastern countries and Gulf states. Because if they will not be having trade with this European country, then they have to rely on other countries. But they are again geographically far more distant away from the reach of the British proximity. Looking at the best case scenario and worst case scenario and middle case scenario, these could be three scenarios of this Brexit. So looking at the best case scenario, the best case scenario in Brexit terms will be to continue European Union membership on mutually beneficial terms. Britain negotiate with the European Union, and European Union gives few concessions to the British as far as their apprehensions are concerned. Second point here, in best case scenario, would be a trade agreement that allows UK continue trade with the European Union without tariffs. So UK will be given a special waiver of the tax and tariffs if they go with the agreement with the European Union. That is the one of the very ideal situations that can take place between the British government and the European Union. UK allowed to conclude mutually beneficial trade agreement with other countries. UK will be given permission to actually go with any country to have this trade agreement anywhere in the world. UK to have enhanced control over migration between UK and the EU. UK will be given, in this case, UK will be given a chance to formulate its own laws when it comes to the migration policies. Because migration is one of the two issues that that we see in case of British as well as the EU. So if UK comes up with own indigenous local migration policy, and UK gives the permission, I guess there would be a win-win situation. But that is not happening as far the recent situation in development is concerned. Looking at the worst case scenario, uh, is that there will be no deal whatsoever between the British and the European Union. Second point in worst case scenario is UK will likely suffer lower GDP growth, estimated about 10.7% in the coming decade. So it is predicted that the UK will suffer the amount of 10.7%. They will see a downward spiral as far as their GDP growth is concerned. And they will have to trade with the European Union under WTO rules. These are 3 points of the worst case scenario. What is the middle case scenario in which we see a win-win situation between the European Union as well as the British people? First would be that the second referendum, which could have a different result, and in which the referendum will see a clarity of objective and goals as far as the people of British Union is concerned. So let them give a chance to go for another referendum in which they could decide to leave or to remain inside the European Union. But that is again not happening these days as for the development of the British exit from the European Union is concerned. Second would be improved Brexit terms offered by United Kingdom and acceptable to the European Union. So they would come up with certain terms and conditions offered by the United Kingdom and will be acceptable to the headquarters of the European Union in Brussels. But that is not happening again. So these are 3 case scenarios we have put this Brexit issue. The present scenario is that in January 2021 is the deadline. Then they have to decide. They have to leave the British. They have to make British leave from the European Union organization. Political polarization bickering between ruling Conservative and the major opposing Labour Party. What are the options and strategy? Deal or no deal? ब्रिटिश के केस में यूरोपियन यूनियन के साथ डील करनी चाहिए नहीं होनी चाहिए. Again, it is still uncertain. It is December 2020. This hardly a 1 month remaining. 31st January will be the deadline where the British have to leave European Union formally, and they have exceeded their deadlines. Hard Brexit or soft Brexit? Hard Brexit means there are a lot more implications on the economy of the British. Soft Brexit would be talking about certain terms and conditions in which the British society, the people of Britain, will not suffer the implications of the British exit from the European Union. Britain may offer softer Brexit terms acceptable to the European Union, and British public opinion may lead towards hard Brexit. Now, Brexit is basically a litmus test for the unity of the European Union as an organization. So in this, European Union has failed to make a British state as part of the European Union, and as far as Greece is endless debt crisis concerned, Greece is getting so much debt from the European Union headquarters. It wants to stabilize their own economy, but still it is a kind of a white elephant as far as the European Union is concerned. Greece has not been able to deal with its internal economic mess that has been created for the last so many years. So still, Greece is on suffering through a debt crisis. It is still run on the borrowings of the foreign countries and the World Bank. Sanctions on Russia, we saw in case of when Russians attacked Ukraine and Georgia. Then afterwards, the G7 countries or became G8 countries became G7. Previously, G8 was including Russia as part of the great seven economies of the world, great eight economies of the world. Now, Russia is not part of the G8 country. Now it's G7 countries. So, and there are a lot more sanctions put on Russia after this military adventures that the Russians have done over Ukraine and Crimea and Georgia. Syrian refugee crisis is again kind of a test for the European Union as one of the powerful organizations in the world, regional organization in the world. We saw a rift between the two blocks, as I talked about. The UK and US is the one block, and the other block is the France and Germany. France and Germany, they favor this migration, and they welcome these refugees. They open up their borders, but looking at the UK is not favoring to welcome these refugees from the war-torn states or civil war countries. Now, there's because of this Brexit issue, there's a rise in the popular movement in Italy, which is known as Five-Star Movement. Now, this Five-Star Movement is a movement of people, those who again wish to see Italy not part of the European Union. They are favoring Brexit, some kind of Brexit in case of Italy leaving the European Union organization. We saw similar kind of political trends seen in France in the form of a leader known as Marine Le Pen. Marine Le Pen is one of the very powerful lady of France who, remember, stood against the elections of Emmanuel Macron, who's right now the president of France. Marine Le Pen actually contested against the Emmanuel Macron as to become the president of France. So again, she would be contesting in the upcoming election in France. Let's see. Now she decides that whenever she gets a chance to become the president of France, the first decision she would make will be make France segregate and separate from the European Union. So we saw a kind of a rise in the in political trends that people are not favoring the integration of European Union as a regional organization. So it is again leading to Brexit is leading to Frexit. Brexit is again leading to Italy's exit from the European Union and in the form of Greece. Thank you so much for listening patiently to this very long presentation on the European Union and the Brexit issue. If you have any questions or comments, you are free to ask. Okay, thank you so much for the attendance. And we talk about another very important topic is international law. Okay, before I start, before I start, uh, okay, I would like to give you the one of the reasons for why we see crimes in our society. This is the basic questions and was raised. Uh, the society. Why do we see occurrence of crimes? The answer to this question is given by Nelson Mandela. Book The Long Walk to Freedom is the collapse of a group tensions and absence of accountability and the public scrutiny have led to crimes against humanity and violations of international law. So we see crimes in our society because there is the collapse, number one, the collapse of good conscience. The other reason highlighted by Nelson Mandela in his book is the absence of accountability. And along that, there is absence of public scrutiny that led to the crimes against humanity and the violations of international law. International law, as per um, various dimensions concerned, that we're going to talk about in detail the domains of international law, then the types of international law, that's private and public law, the difference between these two domains of international law, sources of international law, just war, just et bellum, and just in bello, and the country. So let's start with the um, division of international law. So international law is just like an impartial stick used for maintaining the rule of law in various societies of the world. The first one is the state law. The laws which are formulated and devised by various countries in the world. And if state law is a central authority, is either legislator or sometimes in the form of dictatorial laws. When we see in case of countries like where there is insurgency going on or emergency or dictatorial setup. Second one is the United Nations General Assembly. Resolutions are not laws, but mostly do not bind the member states. So United Nations laws are not binding upon various countries to follow. UN security laws, where it commands rather than laws, but specific to a situation, compel certain actions by the states. Now, if you look at the Kashmir issue, here is a lot more resolutions passed by the United Nations General Assembly in order to get the referendum implemented in the Kashmir Valley. But when you talk about UN Security Council, it basically is authority, it's a force, it's the use of coercive measures rather than laws that are specific to the situation. International law is defined and also known as public international law. As I told you, there are two domains of international law. One is the public international law and another is private international law. So international law is more of a public international law and is a body of rules accepted by the general community, derives not from actual or legislative branch, but from the traditions and agreements signed by various states. It covers a broad range of domains, including war, diplomacy, trade, and human rights. So the domain of public international law is comprised of war, number one, second, diplomacy, diplomatic channels, and third one is trade. It is essentially international trade, and fourth one is human rights. So these are four domains of public international law. Sources of international law. Looking at sources of international law, is the first one is treaties. Uh, Pacta sunt servanda. It's a Latin sentence which means treaties and international law must be observed. Most important source of international law. This is considered as the most important sources of international law as far as treaties are concerned. So treaties between number of countries, pacts, agreements, covenants, they are the number one source of international law. Treaties in U.S. Congress, its highest law of the land, Treaty of Versailles, again, a very important aspect of when we talk about the the developments after the World War I was the signing of this treaty, which is known as Treaty of Versailles. Treaty of Versailles was an agreement signed between Germany and the Allied powers, who actually won the World War I. Second source of international law is the established customs. In this, you see the British Constitution taking into consideration that it is one of the very old constitution in the world, and it is the mostly British Constitution is the only constitution in the world which is not having in written scripture. It is known as unwritten constitution of the world. So why people actually follow the British law? Because they've been following this over 400 or 500 years. It is the oldest constitution in the world that is followed for the last so many centuries. Second most important source is known as the established customs. The British customs and the traditions that followed in the British Constitution is this kind of the second most. Is a behavior becomes generally accepted because of a long time period need for a consent rather than an abstract concept of divine or natural law. Third one, source of international law is the convention. Now, conventions are like gatherings, meetings, whereby state representatives and government representatives just sit together and go for a meeting. As in case of Geneva Convention of 1864 till 1949. It includes victims of armed conflict such as wounded, sick, prisoners of war, and civilians. Geneva Convention talks about the rights of the people who suffer from the armed conflict, in terms of wounded, injured people, sick, and prisoners of war, and the civilians. Prisoner of war, those are those people who become the people who get prison after this war happens. Fourth source of international law is international practices. As in the case of the laws of the sea or law of torts, territorial waters from it defines international practices. It defines the laws of sea, laws of torts. Law of the sea, the territorial waters, they're like 12 nautical miles. They are known as territorial waters. It belongs to the territory of state. जो स्टेट की जो कोस्टल लाइन होती है, जो कोस्टल बेल्ट होता है, शोर लाइन होती है, उससे आगे 12 नॉटिकल माइल तक जो एरिया होता है वो उस कंट्री को बिलोंग करता है. This is known as and this has been following for the last so many years. It is part of the international law. Exclusive economic zones. किसे कहते हैं? Exclusive economic zones जो होते हैं, ऐसे areas होते हैं, regions are those basically extending to the 200 nautical miles of the area. in which the countries can benefit from any economic activity. They go for tourism, they go for extraction of mineral resources, they can discover oil and gas reserves and utilize it for their economic benefit. It belongs to the exclusive economic zone. The fifth source of international law is the judicial decisions, legal scholarship, create legal proceedings, guide judges in deciding similar future cases. The decisions of the highest court in the jurisdiction create mandatory precedent that must be followed by the lower courts in that jurisdiction. So the fifth source of international law talks about all those decisions which have been glorified in the past, uh, known as the famous decisions in the history. They create the precedent of becoming part of the international law. And these decisions actually guide judges of the present times in deciding the similar future cases. तो ये इसके अंदर ये होता है कि जब जजेस होते हैं प्रेजेंट टाइम्स में वो उससे रहनुमाई लेते हैं पास्ट के डिसीजन से और वो देखते हैं कि उस केस में उस टाइम पीरियड में कौन सा डिसीजन लिया गया तो उस डिसीजन को मद्देनजर रखते हुए आप डिसाइड करते हैं कि अब कौन सा हमने वर्डिक्ट देना है जजेस को. So judicial decisions are again a very important factor of one of the source of international law. The sixth source of international law is textual work. It relates to the famous texts, textbooks, or contributions by various jurisprudents, those who have expertise in the jurisprudence and the law, legal framework, legal work relating to the written text and especially literary text. Seventh component source of international law is the research of the jurist. जब jury members होते हैं वो कुछ ना कुछ research करते हैं किसी भी subject के हवाले से तो they are in a well documented form and by looking at jurists research in their work you actually take guidelines on what the jurists have decided in the case of Saint Augustine and Jane Austen. These are the two judges, two jurists who have actually come with their own research related to different issues of that particular matter. There are two concepts when it comes to international law. One is the principle of jus ad bellum, which is known as just recourse to war. And the other one is principles of jus in bello. Jus in bellum or jus in bellum में क्या फर्क है? Jus ad bellum basically is a Latin word which means just recourse to war, just war. It's basically permissible. It's known as a last resort. All non-violent options must have been exhausted before force can be justified. This is sometimes seen as a principle of necessity. Just cause the purpose of war is to redress a wrong that has been suffered. This is usually associated with self-defense in response to military attack, viewed as a classic justification of war. So jus in bellum is a typical classical example of what we say in case of Palestinians dealing with the powerful Israelis. They use this principle of jus ad bellum. They think Palestinians will not be getting the rights from the Israelis, so all they have is to fight a just war, fighting for a just cause. In this, legitimate authority is usually interpreted to imply that a lawfully consecrated government of the sovereign state rather than a private individual. So this is how the principle of jus ad bellum. Jus in bello क्या होता है? Jus in bello is the just conduct of the war. If there is a war, now there is a war taking place. Now how to conduct the war? Force must be directed at military targets only on the grounds that civilians or non-combatants are innocent. That injury to civilians therefore only acceptable if they are accidental and unavoidable victims of deliberate attack on legitimate targets, sometimes seen as collateral damage. Now, what is the collateral damage? Collateral damage is a kind of damage in which innocent civilians are killed out of a targeted attack by the military force. We saw this drone attacks have been the main cause of this collateral damage in those areas of Pata, KPK, and but some parts of Balochistan, in which a lot of civilian people get died. And one terrorist actually is being killed in this targeted attack, but all the other people in the village, they are also targeted, they're being killed. This is known as collateral damage. So इस केस के अंदर the force must be directed at a military target only. So you have to target the military, militant and non-combatants. They are innocent civilians. You don't have to target the non-combatant people. Proportionality of this is the overlapping with this environment. This load is the force used must not be greater than that needed to achieve an acceptable military outcome and must not be greater than the provoking cause. So just in balance के अंदर ये होता है कि जब आप वॉर कंडक्ट कर रहे हैं जस्ट कॉज के लिए आपको ये देखना होगा कि आप उतना फोर्स अप्लाई करें जितना उस आपके टारगेटेड लोग होते हैं उनको आप मार सकें, इससे ज़्यादा नहीं. Force must not be directed over against enemy personnel if they are captured, wounded, or under control. Together with the other just imbalance in the world, this has been formalized over time, so-called laws of war. Just value के अंदर laws को हम बहुत बदली जब war क्या difference क्या हुआ just imbalance और just value. डिफरेंस ये हुआ कि जब आप किसी अल्टीरियर मोटिव के लिए कोई जंग कर रहे हैं जस्ट कॉज के लिए जस्ट बेलो के अंदर क्या होता है आप जब वॉर स्टार्ट करते हैं उसमें आपने कौन सी चीज़ को मद्देनजर जैसे कि कोई की बात ओके सो what are the questions that are addressed to as per the international law is concerned. Number one is the issue of collateral damage. Collateral damage को कैसे हम reduce करें एक तो ये सवाल पैदा होता है जिसमें unintended incident injury damage can be caused during a military operation. Second one is a war as a last resort. How can you decide that this is going to be the last option in your hand to go for a war? Third one is a just cause principle. Your cause must be kept by debate between whether it implies any retaliation against the wrong that has already been committed or whether it can be extended to include the anticipated need for self-defense. So that is the question. The fifth one is the legitimate authority. Difficulties arise over the principle of legitimate authority in that some argue that only governments that are constitutionally democratic constituted can be regarded as a legitimate. Legitimate authority and international law के तहत हम उन sovereign states को governments को मानते हैं जिनकी एक खास state के अंदर हुकूमत है. They are considered the legitimate authority. Issue of dirty hands. Once a war has started, the military tactics should be determined by practical consideration aimed at ensuring a swift and certain victory rather than moral consideration. This issue has become particularly typical in relation to the issue of combating terrorism, sometimes linked to so-called problem of dirty hands. Walzer has worked in this regard. For example, drew attention to the ticking bomb scenario in which a politician ordered the torture of a terrorist suspect to extract information about the location of a bomb, thus saving the lives of hundreds of people. You have to apply coercive measures in order to get to know the various future attacks happening in your society. Thank you so much. We're done with the international law. If you have any question or debate, discussion, or an argument, we can have.